I demand trial by combat.
Hey guys, in this video we're going to review the rules of a trial by 7. A trial of 7 is a very rare subspecies of the animal known as a trial by combat, but in a trial of 7, you fight 7 on 7 instead of 1 on 1. I'm aware of 2 trials of 7 in the history of Ice and Fire, but I won't spoil either of those in this video. We'll make 2 follow-up videos on the events and outcomes of those 2 trials of 7. In this one, we're just going to review the rules and comment on the implications. But first, let's review the trial by combat. Trial by combat is linked to the faith of the 7, and thus, the Andals brought this custom over to Westeros when they arrived thousands of years ago. Here are 4 recent examples. Bronn won Tyrion's trial at the Vale, and Oberyn lost Tyrion's trial at King's Landing. Sandor won his trial versus Beric Dondarrion, and here's an interesting one. Ned's father, Lord Rickard Stark, demanded a trial by combat in the events leading up to Robert's rebellion. Unfortunately, Ned King Aerys declared fire as his champion, which you could look at as either creative or freaking insane. Here are 3 things worth noting about trial by combat. Number 1, if an accuser is part of the royal family, he or she has to elect one of the Kingsguard as his or her champion. Number 2, I haven't been able to find verification for this, but many fans believe that only a noble-born person or a knight can demand a trial by combat. This might just be an inference, since we never hear anyone ask the low-born men of the Night's Watch why they didn't demand a trial by combat before getting shipped up there. And number 3, technically, you can deny someone the right to a trial by combat, but generally speaking, denying someone a trial by combat is a bad idea for political reasons. People believe that the gods help to determine if the person's guilty or not, so if you deny someone a trial by combat, you're basically saying that either you don't believe in the gods or you don't trust them. Robb denied Jaime a duel, at least in the show version of the story, but keep in mind, this wasn't really a demand for a trial by combat. Jaime was trying to get Robb to commit to a champion's duel, for lack of better words, basically a one-on-one to determine which side would win the war. But while we're talking about Robb, let's pretend that he had denied Jaime a trial by combat. Trials by combat extend beyond just the faith of the 7. Beric's a follower of R'hllor, yet he fought Sandor and let him go free when Sandor beat him. So trials by combat are part of the culture of all of Westeros, but you could argue that someone like Robb would not face too much political backlash if he had denied Jaime a trial by combat, since trials by combat are technically related to the faith of the 7, and northern houses worship the old gods, not the 7. And here's a fun fact. Did you ever wonder why someone like Ned Stark or Robb Stark were not knights? It's because knighthood is something that the Andals brought over. It's tied to the faith of the 7. So the houses of the north don't knight their warriors. Jory Castle is a good example.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, sir.
No, sir.
Yet Jory's uncle, Ser Roderick Castle, was knighted. Sir Jorah Mormont is another northerner who was knighted. Jorah was knighted for his bravery at the Siege of Pike during the Greyjoy Rebellion. So basically, the northern houses don't follow the faith of the 7, and they don't practice knighthood. But sometimes, a knight will honor a northerner with the title, like Robert Baratheon did for Jorah. Now let's look at the rare version of a trial by combat called a Trial of 7. A Trial of 7 is like a trial by combat, but it's 7 on 7 instead of 1 on 1. That's freaking awesome. It's considered to be more holy than a regular trial by combat, since you're sort of honoring the 7 gods by choosing 7 people to fight. I really thought Cersei's trial was going to be a trial of 7. I expected the Hound to have a come-from-behind victory over the Mountain, which would have taken her breath away, or figuratively speaking, choke her, making the Hound the Valonqar, but I guess I was wrong with that one. Many fans believe that only a knight can request a trial of 7, and for sure, all 7 participants in the fight have to be knights. That's a fact. So if Tyrion was a knight and he had requested a trial of 7, Bronn would not have been allowed to participate. And tying back to the last point about northern houses not having many knights, you have to figure that it'd be harder for a northerner to find 6 knights to have his back than it would be for someone from the south where they do have knights. And here's another fun fact about trials of 7. Let's say you're a knight from a smaller house, and you're accused of a crime by someone high up, like a prince, so you demand a trial by combat. Well, the accuser can request that it be a trial of 7 for strategic reasons. For example, let's pretend the accuser is a prince. It's going to be pretty hard for you to find 6 other knights to have your back, since they don't want to become enemies of the crown. You know what I mean? And here's the kicker. If you can't find 6 other people, they look at it as if the gods don't have your back, and as a result, you're found guilty of your crime without even getting a chance to fight. Pretty shady, right? But trials of 7 have some pretty cool differences from ordinary trials by combat. For one, you start on horses. So picture this. At the start of a trial of 7, you don't have 2 warriors circling each other, trying to get a feel for the other dude's timing. Instead, you have 2 lines of 7 horses flying at each other at full speed with lances. And if you're dehorsed, you have to fight from the ground, which is a huge disadvantage. So now let's look at various ways a trial of 7 can come to an end. It can end a few ways. If the accused is killed, it's done, and the people would consider him guilty in the eyes of the gods. And if the accuser, or accusers plural, are killed, then it's done, and the accused is looked at as innocent in the eyes of the gods. But let me be clear, you don't necessarily need to kill all 7 people, only the accusers or the accused. But the fight can also end if the accused admits his guilt, or if the accusers withdraw their accusations. So you don't have to kill the other guy. You can technically beat him down and get him to withdraw his accusations, which implies your innocence. It's worth noting that the trial by combat existed in real life, and here's something funny. It's not a trial by combat per se, but this video reminded me of it. So I used to live near a spot where Aaron Burr shot Alexander Hamilton in a duel. That was the US Vice President killing the first Secretary of Treasury in a duel. Total madness. Here's a really funny Got Milk commercial from back in the day.
And now let's make that random call with today's $10,000 question. It's a tough one. Who shot Alexander Hamilton in that famous duel? All right, let's go to the phones and see who's out there. Hello, for $10,000. Who shot... Excuse me? No! I'm afraid your time is almost up. I'm sorry, maybe next time.
Before I go, please do me a favor, and if you check out yesterday's podcast that I did with Frank and Pez of Way Off Topic Radio, please comment over there and tell them to invite me back on, because I had a ton of fun, and in order to get better, I need to do it again. I need to practice. So I want them to invite me back on. And like I mentioned yesterday, thank you all for pointing out my mistake in regards to the Blackwoods, since the Bloodlines may have played a part in some sort of broken pact, as well as magic that's in store for seasons 7 and 8. I'm doing a bunch of research right now on history and lore, and as I learn it, I'll try to put together videos to share what I've learned. So hit subscribe if you want to see those. Thank you as always to everyone on the team over at Patreon. This channel wouldn't exist without you guys, so thank you.